Hello and welcome to our 24th session of the Light Body Manifestation Program. I am Mercedes Kirkel, the facilitator for this program, and welcome back. Glad to be back with everybody. Well, at least part of everybody. We're doing a kind of split session this time where we're having two different sessions to accommodate different people's schedules. So I'm happy for the people who are here, and I know some people will be on the next call as well. So I want to start with a check-in. This is going to be a more relaxed class. We don't have as much material to cover, and so my intention is that we can have more time just to check in. We did a really, really big piece of work the last time we met over the weekend, on the Saturday and Sunday. And so I'm very interested in hearing about that and, how that's going for everyone, where everybody's at in their process. That's very valuable to me to hear that. So I really would like to kind of do extended check-ins and really hear where people are at and how's it going. So let me bring up my slide because it's kind of a refresher of what we've been working on. Oh, just a minute. Sorry, I have to get the screen ready. Okay. So, all righty. Oops, I don't know. I just lost it. Did you lose it too, or is it just me? I'm going to go back just a minute. Okay. All righty. So here's our celebrations and mornings. That we did the whole process last time with activating our Merkaba, and just as a refresher, we were working on seeing the green light, seeing the geometric forms, and then either opening if it was the first time, or if you've already opened it, going through the third eye. And again, for the first time, it was activating, and then once it's activated, it's just kind of connecting with your halo, energizing your halo, and then coming back to the inner temple of the heart. So that was the whole process that we worked on and activated over the weekend in our last meetings. And that's what I would love to hear about, how it's going for everybody. So let me close this screen out and invite you to share, whoever would like to start.
Okay, this is Maria. Good morning, everyone.
Hello. All of a sudden, I lost the sound and I can't hear you. Oh, somehow you got muted. Maybe I did that. Okay. Now you're
Yeah.
Okay, now you're unmuted. So if you'd start over, that would be wonderful.
So we had a good body session with Rajinder and Joy last Monday. Woo! So some of the things I'm going to say, maybe it'll be a little bit of a repeat of that. But when we did the activation 10 days ago, I think it was, or 2 weeks ago, I had some unfinished feeling. And it wasn't like a bad feeling. It was just a feeling that I had not kind of completed the last step. So the next morning, I connected to that, and
can I ask a question? When you said completed the last step, what specifically is the last step for you?
So the last step was to connect to the Merkaba.
Okay.
But it was like the feelings were not there. It's like okay. I could visualize it and do it, but maybe I didn't feel comfortable, or I didn't know what to do with it. It was like it was some stress there. So the next morning I repeated meditation. And then when I did the last step, I saw that there were things to clean up, the way that Rajinder had done with her grief. I realized that for me to be up in the geometric form, I had to have my heart completely open, and the feelings that came up were of feeling lost and lonely, and then I realized that the feeling that of being lonely I had had all my life was because I was not connected to my higher self. So
the sound got funny on that last part. What did you say? Because you weren't held?
Do you want to turn off the video?
Yes, let's try that and see if that'll help. Okay.
So the feeling was that I was feeling lost and lonely.
Mm-hmm.
And the feeling of being lonely was, I realized, not to be fully connected to my higher self.
Mm.
So it needed what I thought it was more fully surrendered to the higher self. And I have to confess that I had been afraid of my higher self, because I always thought she wanted something that maybe I was not very convinced I wanted to make it happen. So I had, in a certain way, for some things, not completely merged with her. And so I did that, and I accepted that no matter what, she was always going to manage my life. So I might as well recognize that and let it go. There was nothing I could do to escape her. So once I did that, it was easy. I kind of jumped into the tetrahedron, and then I felt it spinning and going up, and it felt like joy and fun. It was really a nice feeling, and I felt that it was a familiar feeling. So it's almost, I thought, it's something I do every night after I go to sleep. I just now do it consciously. That was the feeling that I had. Mm-hmm. So the way, and I have to say that I can jump into that tetrahedron without doing the meditation. It's something easy to go in and out of. But I have not been able to do much with it. The only thing I really did was feeling that I could accept that everyone that I meet has a tetrahedron, and that was a way I could connect to some people. And what I did, I was very upset, if I want to call it that way, that word, or anxious about what was going on between North Korea and a leader and Trump. So I called both of them, and the three of us were there as tetrahedrons trying to I asked them what did they wanted, and basically they said that they wanted love, and so basically I learned with that no matter what the expression is during life, we all want the same thing. So basically the message was that I needed to let go of what the 3D personalities were, and that deep down we all want the same thing. And so that was helpful. Not that I know what to do with it, but at least it was a way of saying, okay, I'm doing all this to learn how to live in a different way and to relate to people in a different way. And so during the week, I accepted that I needed to learn to look at life in a different way, that what I call life is a reality that I create, and that through the third eye and the tetrahedron, I am able to see life in a different way, yeah? And that I need to be open to that, although right now it looks like crazy. So one of the things about this surrender to the higher self is what I call not only trust, but a blind trust. Yeah, that I need to maybe take some steps in the dark, and that then I would understand the why, and not the other way around. I really like to understand what I'm doing before, making a decision or doing something. And I think what this is saying is that there's something of value in the blind trust, although it goes against everything I ever done for a long time, and that I need to be open to that blind trust, that I need to be more sensitive to this knowing that is inside me, and that many times my mind is close to it because maybe it doesn't agree with the reality that I have accepted. So it's been that type of week. So it's been good. So I'm looking forward to you suggesting ways we can change that 3D reality and use the 4D to live everyday life.
Wonderful. Wow. I am so happy to hear your report. And so many things, it's been a while, it's been a couple of weeks, and it feels like so much you've done so much with it that I'm just so happy about. And really glad you went back, that when you weren't feeling like, it was complete or completely done, and you went back and really felt, what's missing, what do I need to do, and that connection with your higher self, that just sounds so valuable and so important. And part of what I love about your process is that you trusted your own guidance of what you needed and what you needed to do, and followed it, and it worked. And to me, that's a huge validation of the process that we're engaging and learning step by step, and this shift into the fourth dimension where we are becoming our own guidance, our own authority for ourselves. And so I really see you doing that, and I really celebrate that. So that part was really exciting to me. And then I love your description about where you went with your disturbance around what was happening with North Korea, and this meeting and this insight that came out of it that I so agree with. I think I would expand a little bit, because I think in the third dimension that there's two things that are the primary things that we're all wanting. We're all wanting love, and the other thing is safety. And I think there's an element of both in what's going on. And in most situations, there's different degrees of those two things. But I think those are very often our primal motivations for what's going on. And so I really agree with you, and I love what you did with it. And we are going to be studying more about how we manifest and how we use our Merkaba specifically to manifest. And that's what we're going to be starting beginning with the next session. That's going to be our focus for that last month of how do we create in the fourth dimensional way, and starting to learn specific practices and techniques for that. But I think you're already underway with it. I think you're already being guided, and you've already begun. And I think that's awesome. I'm really happy. So we will be getting to that, and it won't be until starting with our next session. But I invite you to experiment and follow your guidance of what feels right until then. And I think you'll know. I think you will be guided, and I think you'll know what's right, and what's safe, and what's appropriate for you.
Yeah, one of the things that showed up when I went to see why fear would create violence, I realized that I do have a sense of superiority, that I feel that is a compensation, is like a defense. When I feel vulnerable, then I compensate by my mind making all this picture of I'm being superior. And that is what creates the violence, at least in me. So I used also what was going on to try to see how I express that, because accepting that if I see it in others is because I still have it in me. Yeah. And in a certain way, doing this work also sometimes can take me to that superiority, you know, that you say, oh, I know better than these people, poor souls. And it's not that I really are too mean about it, but there is an underlying sense of that. Yeah. So I think, so I did connect to that, and it's been also helpful.
Yes, wonderful. Yes, superiority is always rooted in inferiority.
Yeah.
Always coming out of, and that's coming out of wounding. There's some wounding where you didn't receive the message that you were valuable, you mattered, you were loved, whatever, you know, form it specifically took for you. And if it becomes a pattern, it's wounding that hasn't been healed.
Yeah. Perfect. Yep. So that is humbling, but I guess needed.
Yes, and humbling in a good way, humbling in a way that's going to lead to your real empowerment instead of a manipulation to try to, you know, cope, a coping strategy.
Yeah. So it is also very peaceful to know that the only way to be in fourth dimension and experience that power, if we want to call it that way, is only through an open heart. So we were discussing on Monday that then that means that I cannot misuse it, because unless I have an open heart, I cannot access the fourth dimension, at least in my case. So that is very balancing, very helpful, and it takes away the danger or the unknown in a certain way. And also it's helpful because if the days that I have difficulty accessing the Merkaba is because for some reason I am not completely open. So it works both ways. It forces me to open the heart, and at the same time it gives me the security that if I'm up there. So what we were also commenting on Monday is that this is really good, because now power and open heart are synonyms, and that is really
Right on. That's so great. That's so perfect what you're discovering. Thank you. I'm just going to make you the teacher now.
Yeah, but it is an eye-opening. Yeah.
Yes, and heart opening and experience opening. I mean, you're having this incredible wisdom coming through your experience, through what you have realized. This isn't belief. This isn't a mind thing. This is what you have experienced. It's great.
Yeah, and I made peace with being so mind-oriented, because one time I did something that they call human design. And human design is kind of an interesting, I don't know if you're familiar with it, and they have all open and closed things. And I have to say that it gave me peace, because according to them, there are two mind centers, and usually you have one like open and the other one receiving and one giving or whatever. But mine, both of them are open. So I understood in a certain way why I am so mental, and not mental in a bad way. For me, understanding and clarity are very important. Yeah. And I made peace also with when the Mary Magdalene in the last channeling said that we would make peace with the masculine after knowing the masculine, understanding the masculine. So then I did make the connection that understanding and making peace go together. And that is my experience all my life. But at the same time, we have this idea that the mind and the heart are at war, yeah? And that if you open your heart, then you have to, in a certain way, let go of your mind. And that is what I've been, in a certain way, looking for all these years. And the opening of the third eye, I have not been able to use it too much in a certain way, or maybe I have, but I do feel this burning need to make peace with my heart, but with my mind too, not to have my heart open and let my mind, in the never lined. I do have this need of making peace in a coherent way. So that channeling from Mary Magdalene was very helpful. And in a certain way, that's what I'm really looking for, to do these two things. And I am like that, if this is the way I plan my present life, then I have to accept that making peace with my mind is an important part of the equation for me.
Yes, and you're absolutely right. I would so agree that making peace with your mind has so much to do with making peace with the masculine.
Okay.
And coming to understand and value and love the masculine. And this is what I have been discovering through this incredible journey I've been on of understanding the masculine and how does that relate to the feminine? How are they different, and what's the play between them? And I realized I had a lot of superiority towards the masculine, and which was a kind of an anger towards the masculine, that the mind is bad and lower, and men were just inferior to women in general. The women's way was the real way, the heart way and the feeling way, and if men could just be like women, then everything would be okay. And
life would be so much simple.
Simple, yes. It might be a lot more boring.
Yeah. I know. But I mean, that's what we like to think. Oh, it would be so simple. Okay.
And I have gone through a huge process in myself of falling in love with the masculine and valuing the masculine, appreciating the masculine deeply, profoundly, and really starting to see a picture of why there's a difference and how they play together, how we need each other. And I am so excited about this. And this is what I'm going to be presenting in the course about manifesting the sacred masculine. But I really think this is a great growing edge for many of us. I think a lot of us, including the people in this course, definitely are just going to the depths of working our feminine and finding out what it is to really connect with our emotions and our feelings and open our heart and live on that basis. And that's a huge piece of work. And I see that it really needs the complement of the masculine too. So I'm really looking forward to starting to work with that and share that with people.
Yeah, perfect. We have signed up. I think Joy too.
Yeah.
So we are looking forward to that. I am very, very badly.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for your sharing. Okay. So, who would like to go next?
I'll go. I'm going to try to put this into words. I just feel like so much has been happening since I've been doing this practice, like within the practice and then within my life. Like, it's really kind of interesting. And I guess I'll start like within my life. What I see is that when I like surrender something or pray or like ask for clarity or guidance, like it comes so quickly and so like there's not a doubt that it's just like, which has been really amazing. Because I think before I'd always be like, is that what I asked for? Or do I trust that? Or is that the guidance? But now it's just like, I'll say a prayer and like the next morning, like, boom, it's like, here's the answer. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So it's been really, that's been amazing. And I think with the practice, this has been a little, I want to like maybe even use the word like scary in a way for me, because I've noticed it was on, it was on that Lionsgate day, and the energy was like super intense. And I did the practice for a while because I was like, oh, I'm just going to meditate and just kind of get in this place of like grounding. But what happened was I felt like I activated the Merkaba really easily, but then it felt like I kind of went up, and like I've been having these experiences with like different, like I want to say like beings, where usually I'm like used to like angels or Jesus or like something that's more familiar to me. But this day I had this, I know I feel even crazy saying this, but I'm just going to say it. Like I had this like blue alien, and there was like maybe like 3 of them come in, and they were like doing this like heart healing. And I was like, I don't know, like I've never seen you. And it was kind of like a little bit of fear came in. And I called Archangel Michael in, and I just kind of like sat with like these aliens, kind of looking at them like, I don't really know what to do. And it was just kind of an interesting experience. And then after the meditation, I'm like Googling on my phone, like blue aliens, because I'm like, what was this? And it was really interesting because pictures of Syrians came up, and then I like was investigating like the Lion's Gate, and I was like, oh, wow, that's like when the star Sirius is aligned with the sun, and there's like this path. So it was really kind of interesting, that whole experience. But while I was in the experience, it was like, I just can't even explain it. It was like part of me felt open to it, and another part of me was a little bit in fear because it was kind of a different thing happening there. So that's been interesting. And then I've also had, like Archangel Raphael has come in a lot. Like there's this whole heart healing thing going on. So, and that's an angel that like I wasn't really familiar with, but so a lot of stuff like that's been happening, which has been like, I'm like humbled and grateful for it, but it feels a little, it's different for me to have those experiences. Yeah.
So I would definitely recommend that you state an intention to your Merkaba.
Okay.
When you are in your Merkabic field in the 4th dimension, that no beings enter without your explicit permission.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, okay. All right.
And if beings approach you to enter, I would really ask them, who are you? What are you here to do? Are you for my highest good? Ask Archangel Michael if if this would be good for you. Really check it out before you allow beings into your field.
Okay. Yeah, because I felt, like Archangel Raphael was like awesome, but the blue aliens, I was kind of like, I don't know. So, okay, I love that. So then I've been just like really calling in Archangel Michael to kind of just be in there with me. Yeah, and it was weird. Like that was a really intense experience. And then the other experiences have been much more just like almost like grounding, but it's like the whole Merkaba kind of fills with light, and I'm just sitting there, and it's not so like I'm not going to outer space, like I'm just kind of there. And so that feels really good. And I feel like those experiences have like kind of just shifted something in my reality. Just like I've been having these alternate days of having this much more like this experience of being able to see the different dimensions. And then like, it's like the next day I'm stuck in like all the triggers and like craziness. And then, so it's really kind of interesting. And I've kind of learned that when that happens and I have those days that I'm in the triggers, instead of like making myself wrong or being like, oh my God, yesterday we were like seeing this from such a big perspective, and now you're like stuck in the old pattern. Like I realized like it's more just having a lot of compassion and love for myself. And it's almost like I'm having these experiences of like these different wounded parts of me, I think from like the trauma surfacing, and really getting clear on like how these parts are like operating and influencing my life and kind of part of these old patterns, and like loving them and bringing them closer to me and like having conversations with them and just, yeah. And the other big thing that happened, which kind of goes with what you were saying with the masculine, like I've noticed all these wounded parts of me. And then it was like, I guess it was like a week ago, I had this, like I call him like this divine masculine king part of me kind of emerge. Like it was almost like he just stood up behind me. And I was like, who are you? And he's like, I've been here like the whole time. Like you just needed to ask me for help. I have like chills when I'm saying this. And I was like, oh my gosh. So it's almost like that part of me has taken all the other parts of me in and is helping me with like reestablishing my trust with the masculine. So there's so much like amazing stuff that is happening, like that I feel like the Merkaba is like a huge part that's kind of like accessing this information and this wisdom. And because before I was like always trying to figure everything out. And now it's like, I'm just going to say a prayer for like God to show me what part of me like needs healing or what part of me is acting. And then it's like, boom, here it is. And so it's been really a beautiful like flow. I feel like it's just like this flow and this trust and surrender. But before I'd always be like, you know, you hear people like surrender. And I'd be like, I'm trying. But now it's kind of like, I realize like to surrender, like you need that trust to surrender. And I feel like I'm developing like a lot of trust in life, even when it's been challenging, because even last week I had to end a relationship with someone because I was like, this doesn't really feel good. And this is really triggering to me. And this seems like kind of my old pattern coming back. And, you know, like, and I felt really unsafe. And instead of me over spiritualizing everything and being like, oh, this person just needs love. And I was like, you know what? No, like, it's not really the best place for me to be right now, where I'm like really working through these issues and, you know, healing my nervous system. And I'm like, and it makes sense that I would have attracted someone like this in, because I still had that trauma in my energy field, but I can choose different. Like I can choose like this other path and let that part go. And so it's been really, I feel like a grown up. Like, I think that's what it seems like. I feel like a spiritual grown up all of a sudden, which feels really good.
Awesome.
Thank
awesome.
you.
And, you know, when you talked about that alternating pattern of, you know, seeing things from such a higher dimensional place one day, and then the next day it seems like, you know, all of a sudden you're kind of in your problems or whatever. I definitely think those are connected, and that higher dimensional place is helping to bring up the things that still remain for healing. And it sounds like everything you're doing is fantastic, and I really support it. And I would just suggest exploring, in addition, when you're loving those parts and dialoguing with those parts, and really go to the inner divine qualities and see what the inner divine qualities are that you're needing. And then give that to yourself, and give it to yourself, you know, in your meditations too, and in your Merkaba. Give that to yourself.
Okay, I love that. Thank you.
Yeah. And what you were saying about surrender, you know, we all know we're supposed to be surrendering. Everybody tells us to surrender, but it doesn't necessarily happen. And again, I feel like one of the biggest reasons is because we have to have safety.
Yes. Yeah. That's been the biggest thing. Yes. Yeah, because even in that relationship, I was like, I don't feel safe. And then I was like, safety. Every single part of me that has shown up when I ask what they need, they all say safety.
Yes.
And
that's one of the functions of the Merkaba, is to give us safety.
Oh, I love that. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Good morning.
Hello.
Okay, so since we've been doing the Merkaba, I've done it several times, you know, through the whole process. And it's been, you know, it's felt good. I've experienced the spinning, kind of interesting, and then, but I'm centered. I'm not moving, and I'm just trying to think anything particular with that. Not really, but I noticed I didn't have to go through the whole process. I could just put my arms out like this, and I could feel the energy like tingling off my fingertips, and that would kind of like put me in it. But you know, that's all the yoga thing. I probably wouldn't even need to do that. I could probably just think about it, but that's my training.
Yeah.
But one thing I have noticed that's been kind of weird. I went camping, and I was really connected with nature and the heart and the Merkaba, because I did a lot of it when I was there. And since I've been back, I've been feeling disequilibrium, like I'm not completely here and I'm not completely there. So I've tried to like walk around in the grass and put my energy down through my feet and try to ground myself. So I feel a little bit better today. But going back to my work, where I interact with, you know, people's energy fields pretty intimately, you know, in the way that I work. The first day, I just felt like I had all this energy like up in my field. So it almost like had me spinning, almost feeling. So the next morning, that's when I went and I walked in the grass. You know, New Mexico, it's hard to have grass, but we have a little bit of grass. Put my feet in the grass and, you know, try to ground. And then the next 2 days, just exhausted feeling. And but like today, I say I feel a little better. But I didn't really do the full Merkaba thing practice since Monday. So
Okay. I hope what we're going to do today will help you.
Okay, good.
That, I anticipate it will, and doing the full practice might be really good, you know, because some of the connecting with Mother Earth and Father Sky, but, you know, having that balanced connection, connecting with the double serpents, you know, starting from the root chakra, those are very, you know.
Oh, actually, I did those.
Okay.
Every day, but I didn't have the time to go, you know, like close my eyes and do that thing and go and all that stuff. So I'd done everything else, but I had done the double serpents and into the heart, and I didn't have any more time. So I just did my arms, and then whoosh, like I was plugged in.
All right, great.
Yeah, but
it sounds good. And the other thing that you can do is when you're in your Merkaba, set the intention. I want to be grounded. I want to be balanced with above and below, you know, balanced energy and really present and grounded in life.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. So good to hear what people's practices and what's happening, you know, as you're engaging this process. So thank you very much. So now let's shift to what we're going to focus on for today. And I'm going to call up my slides again. So first thing I want to clarify about our next meetings. There will be another meeting on Sunday. It's going to be a duplicate of this class we're doing today, this meeting today, in terms of, you know, material that I'm presenting. So you're welcome to come again on Sunday if you want, but you don't need to. You're getting it today, you know. So whichever works for you. And then after that, our next one will be in a week and a half on Wednesday, August 30th, and we'll be returning, yay, to our regular schedule. I don't know about you, but I'm so turned around. I had to really focus today on like, when are we meeting and what time it is? Plus I'm doing the transposing of like, what time is that in Europe and all of that. That's really challenging for me. So I'm really looking forward to going back to simplicity and a regular schedule. So Wednesday, August 30th. And that's when we'll begin this last phase of creating in our Merkabas in the 4D way. And I can tell everybody's already inching into it already, you know, just on your own through your guidance that you're already receiving. And that's great. And we'll just be building on it. So that's our schedule. And then for today, what we are focusing on are the 3 light centers of the body. So I am going to expand on this. Our 3 centers that we're going to be working with are our head, heart, and what I am calling the hara, which is a term that probably most of you are familiar with. We've been working with the head in terms of the pineal chakra. We've been working with the heart in terms of the heart chakra. So what's new is bringing in this center here, and I want to talk about this, what I mean by this center here. So I'm going to break this down a little bit. Another name for this is the abdominal center.
Navel center.
Navel center. Mm-hmm. And it's not a chakra. It's between 2 chakras. This is between your sacral chakra, which is the 2nd chakra, and the solar plexus chakra, which is the 3rd chakra. So more specifically, and another description of it is that it's your center of gravity. So if you've ever worked with any movement processes where, you know, you've explored where your center of gravity is, that's what we're working with, is that center. So different ways of approaching it. It's generally considered to be 2 to 3 inches below the belly button. So that's another way of kind of accessing it is as a physical thing. When I first learned this, I learned it as 2 finger widths below the belly button. But, you know, I think, again, it's different for every person, and you'll get a sense of where it is for you. And other names, sometimes it's just called your center. People will say, you know, go to your center. And this is what they're talking about, this spot. Hara is a Japanese word. It comes from Japanese energy work. Sometimes I think this is also familiar to people who work in Reiki, that they use that term in Reiki work, at least sometimes. But in the English version, lots of times it's just called your center, or sometimes your vital center. I heard navel center. I like that too. And sometimes we just call it our belly. That's sort of the everyday languaging of what this center is, you know, something in your belly. Sometimes we say gut, but gut can mean different things. Sometimes people mean their solar plexus when they say their gut, and sometimes they're referring to this deeper center, which is this one that we're talking about, the hara. So these are the 3 centers that we're going to be focusing on today. And it's related to our beams of light because actually we have beams of light that are coming from all 3 centers. And up till now, we've been working with the beams of light related to our pineal chakra and the head center. And this is a very simplistic picture of, you know, what we've been working with the beams of light, and hopefully that you've continued to work with, not necessarily activating anymore, because I don't think you need to do that, but adjusting, tuning. And I really recommend that be a daily practice, that you're tuning your beams of light. And this tuning process, I've said this before, but I'll repeat it. At this stage, you don't have to go in any particular order with the beams of light. You can follow your guidance of what feels right to you. When I do my tuning, I most often do it in a particular sequence that's the exact opposite of the sequence that we do when we activate them. That's what feels right to me. But sometimes I do it in a different order, and if I get guided to do that, I just go with it. So use your guidance, but these are the 4 basic beams. It kind of looks like 5 here because the vertical beam is in both pictures, but it's this one, the ascension beam, which is also called the unicorn beam, our forward and back beam, our side to side beam here, and then the vertical beam. So the 4 beams, which hopefully this is just review, that you're all very familiar with this. Any questions about this before I go on?
Yes. Why do they get moved off kilter a little bit?
Because things affect our energy body.
Oh, okay.
And it's like disturbance in our energy field.
Okay.
So they're reflecting that disturbance. There's probably some way they're trying to kind of help balance us or stabilize us or support us, but the end result is they can
They're
end
not
up
exactly right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
So the more stable we are and the stronger we are, the more stable they remain. And the more we work with them, the more they tend to stabilize us. So it works both directions. So what happened when we activated our beams of light and did the process of, working with them over a month-long period to get them stronger and really, come in fully, is that we actually were activating more than just our head. We were also activating these other centers, our heart center and our hara. And we were activating those beams of light at the same time. And this is part of this holographic nature of the universe, that just like when we activated the beams, and for most of us, I think probably for all of us, we activated the first 3 beams and the 4th one activated on its own. It's just the way they work. Well, these other beams are connected. These other centers are connected to our head center. And so through activating these, we actually were simultaneously working with these other centers too. But now we're going to bring them in so you can include them and start to consciously work with them too. So the next one is our heart center. And there are actually only 3 beams at our heart center. There's the vertical beam, which is shown here both in the forward view and then also the side view. So it's the same beam. And then there's the front and back beam, which we can see here in the side view, and the sideways beam, side to side. So there's 3 beams. The ascension beam or the unicorn beam is only at the head. So that's what our beams at our heart center look like. I think I break it down. Yeah, we have the forward back beam, the sideways beam, and the vertical beam. Any questions about that? I'm just giving the overview right now, and then I'm going to talk about what we actually do with this. So right now it's just to get the picture of it. So then let's go down to the hara center. And at the hara center, we have 4 beams again. We have a different beam than we had at the head. At the head, we had the ascension beam, the unicorn beam that goes like this. At the hara, we have the descension beam. And this is very balancing for us. Everything in our body is set up for balance. And so knowing about this and working with this is one of the big things that can help us to balance all the energy up here in our head and bring it fully down. And this one especially, because it has this descending energy. And so this particular beam in particular is the balance to this beam, the ascension beam. So then we go back here. Here's our descension beam in our hara center. Then there's the forward and back beam. There's our sideways beams. And then we have the vertical beam. And this also is the vertical beam over here, same beam. So 4 beams. So when we put this all together, it looks like this, where we have this, what I would call our inner tree of life. In another way I like to think of it and relate to it is it's a light beam grid. We have a whole grid within us that's actually very balanced. And here you see the vertical beam. And this is exactly the same thing we've worked with in other ways. We've worked with this when we have done the chakras, because the chakras are all within this vertical beam. We worked with it when we did the double serpents, because they're going around the vertical beam. We worked with it when we do the connecting with Mother Earth and Father Sky, because when we send our heart energy down into the earth and receive earth energy back, it's through the lower part of this vertical beam. And when we send our energy up to Father Sky and receive the light energy back into our heart, it's through the upper part of the vertical beam. And then we also worked with this last time in our activating the Merkaba process, where we were doing the breathing prana from both directions in the tube into our heart. That was this same, you could call it the central channel, and it's the same thing that this vertical beam is working through. And it's going from right up here at the soul star to our root chakra. So this is like lighting up our whole center through lighting up these three centers. And then we have the ascension beam and the descension beam. And those are really balancing. And what I find when I work with all of these beams all together is that it's so much easier for me to connect with Mother Earth at the beginning, because the descension beam is already activated. And I'm already much more balanced in my whole body. So I can feel that I am so much more grounded, and yet in a way that's fully enlightened. It's filled with light through doing this. So I find this to be an extremely balancing process, and I feel it's really important for our balance. So the next one is we have the forward and back beams, and this is not just this beam here, but it's also this beam here and this beam here. All three centers, we have the forward and back beams. And then all three centers, we have the sideways beams, these three here. So that's what our total grid, our inner grid looks like, our light grid within, which to me, again, is, you could call it the tree of life, you could call it the tree of light. To me, that's very much what I see when I look at this, is a light network that's like our inner tree. So this is this is the final activation of this whole process, is working with this. So before I go on about how we do this specifically, just in terms of understanding what these different centers are and what the beams are at the different centers, is there any question up to this point about this? Okay, then I'm going to go on. So I suggest that you begin with just what you've already been doing, with focusing on the head center and the beams of light at the head and connecting with them and tuning. And the two things that I look for in tuning are the placement, if they need any adjustment to get right back in the right place, and that they're shining strongly. And if not, use your intention to ask the beams to shine brightly, so that you're really bringing the full light through the beams. And again, this is review. This is what everyone, as far as I'm aware, is already doing. But this is the first thing that I recommend, is starting with this. When you feel that in place and strong, then go to your heart center. and do the same thing. Connect with the beams of light at your heart center. And you can do this in any order that feels right to you. You know, the order that's closest to what we did in the activation would be to start with the forward and back beam, this one right here, and then to go to the side to side beam, and then to go to the vertical beam. But if that's not the order that's calling to you, I definitely support you in following your guidance. But you want to feel and connect with all three beams. And then finally, to go to the Hara Center. And there, again, it's 4 beams. You have the descension beam, the one going in the downward angle, descending from higher to lower towards the front. Whoops. And then you have the other beams, the forward and back beam, the sideways beam, and the vertical beams. So same thing, connecting with all the beams until you have a sense that they're in the right place and that they're shining brightly. And then the 4th thing that I recommend is to just then connect with the whole grid and see if you can feel your whole grid connected. And at this point, if you've done all 3 centers, the vertical should be one continuous vertical column of light. And then you have the 3 other beams at the head chakra, the ascension beam, the front back beam, and the side to side beam. 2 other beams at the heart center, the front back and side to side, and then the 3 other beams at the Hara center, the descension beam, the front back, and the side to side. And so connecting with all of those. And then from there, going forward with the rest of the meditation. So then from there you'd go into the Mother Earth, Father Sky, connecting at the heart with you as the divine child. And I predict that you will notice a big difference in how much easier it is to do when you do this first. That this is really going to support that initial connection and the stability of the whole process and your sense of balance in this altogether.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is now then the halo extending to the whole body?
Okay. Very good question. Thank you. No, it's actually that you have 3 different centers. And I do have a slide for this. And I was questioning about whether I was going to go into it or not, but I will go into it.
The reason I'm asking is that, when I feel that the beams stabilize when they connect to a halo, kind of a 3D structure that keeps them in place and connects them all. That's So for me, having the beams finishing in nothing is kind of like incomplete. Yeah, I need them to connect to something around me. That's what I was asking. So,
all right, that's really good feedback. So I will talk about this, that there are these 3 different spheres and they're different. The head sphere is a light sphere, and this is the halo, the halo of light. This sphere right here is a sphere of love. And it's already being, in all of us, it's already activated, but especially through the Mother Earth, Father Sky. That is what really brings in this activation of this sphere. And to the degree that you practice being in your heart and being in love, this sphere gets fed and strengthened. But this is a sphere of love. And this final sphere here is a sphere of, you could call it life energy, life force, or prana. So these beams are actually going out to these 3 different spheres, and the quality or what the sphere is actually composed of is different in the 3 with each center. which corresponds to the function of that center and how they, you know, how they work within each of us. Is that clear?
Yeah, one more question. Is the heart sphere the same one that we activate before the Merkaba connection? That blue ring that we were sending energy the other day?
The what? The
Like
ring?
yeah, you had like a blue ring that we
Right. Which I
yeah,
don't think it's necessarily blue. I think just the picture that I was using showed
okay.
blue, but I don't think it's necessarily
Okay. I'm a color person, so I always connect to some color. Okay, so that ring that we were sending energy, remember? Before
Yes.
we did the Leonardo ring? Is that the
Yes.
same one?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions related to this or anything else about the centers or the beams? Okay. All right, then I want to do a little practice with this. And what I want to do is just to practice with going through each of the centers one at a time, and I'll guide you through it. Again, this is a little tricky because your timing may be different than my timing. And your guidance of what you are guided to do might be, you know, I think what I'll do is I think I'll leave it open-ended as far as the order that you will connect with the spheres. So I think I'll just I think I can make it open-ended. But when you're doing it on your own, you will follow your own guidance and your own timing, and I predict that will be easier, but I think this is good for an introduction. And then also you can give me feedback about how this worked for you, which I would definitely like to hear. So why don't we take a break, a few minutes. If you need to get some water, go to the bathroom, get your eye shade, and then we're going to do just this first part.
Just want to let you know that I'm here.
Thank you. Actually, why don't we can turn the camera back on now. Michelle, are you there? Mhm. So I'm not sure, Michelle, if you're back and ready. If you could let me know, um, because I don't want to start if you're not ready. Ah, okay. So if everybody could put on their eye shade and get in whatever meditation pose you wish to be in for our guided meditation here. And let's begin with just relaxing your belly, letting your breathing become rhythmic. And then taking your focus up to your head and to the beams of light in your head, centered around your pineal chakra, the head center. And do your tuning for your beams of light at the head, which will include the 4 beams, the ascension beam, forward and back, side to side, and vertical. So take a minute or more and tune the beams of light at the head. And completing with the 4 beams at the head. And then shifting to the heart. And at the heart, you're going to be tuning 3 beams of light. The side to side beam, the front and back beam, and the vertical beam. So let yourself tune these beams following your guidance of the order to do that in. And especially inviting the light to be strong and bright. in each of these three beams. The activation has already occurred. You are simply connecting, tuning, strengthening. Completing your tuning of the beams of light at the heart center. And then shifting to the Hara center, where there are 4 beams of light for you to tune. The descension beam, side to side beam, forward and back beam, and vertical beam. Let yourself tune these 4 beams, especially focusing on the light being bright and strong. Completing your tuning at the Hara center of the 4 beams of light. And then feeling the entire grid of all your beams of light together. The head, heart, and Hara, with all the beams of light shining. Your tree of light within yourself. And then gently coming back to our meeting. Taking off your eye shade and returning back to our space here. So, what did people experience in doing this?
I'll go. So it was interesting. When I got to my heart, like I felt so much love and gratitude. And then it was like, I just started like crying. Like it was like, I feel like I'm like on this like opposite, like it's kind of like the love comes and then all of a sudden like there's a little burst of like sadness. So I started crying and then I was trying not to like think too much about it, just like let it release. And then as we went through the whole process, then it kind of just like this peace came over me. And I had a question because I feel like just doing that, like it would be beautiful just to like do that and then just sit in that for a while. Like, is that okay to do? Like,
Absolutely.
okay.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And as you integrate it more, it will become faster and it will also continue as you do the rest of the process. But in the beginning, yes, spend time just enjoying this and getting to know it. But don't lose touch with the other process. Like I would say, at least every few days, go on and do the meditation.
Okay. Because I also felt like at some point once they were all, because it was like the spheres came really easily. And then I felt like the one that goes all the way down, like almost like connected everything. Like that was almost like one that came down. So.
Yep.
So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay. What else did people experience?
So for me, the head was easy, like we had been doing so far. The heart was the one with the most change. I felt a tingling in my throat, in my arms, and in my legs. And then I did feel like an opening, but it was very physical. And then I felt heat and it felt a well-being. So that was very nice. Mm. And I do feel the need to connect to the sphere to anchor them. And then I did my hara, and I was able to do the beams. That is something I had not done in any which way before, because before when I did my vertical in the head, I felt it connected to my heart, but it never went beyond that. So the beams in my hara were for the first time. And I was able to put them together, but I was not able to see them bright. So I felt them like brown. And I felt them present and I felt them strong. And I felt them connected to the sphere. So then I checked, is there anything wrong with it? And I said, no, because the three centers are connected and they are connected to my light body. The light body gets bright connected to that tree of light. Like, like that Guadalupe Virgin that the Mexicans have that has the light all around the body. It felt that way. Mm-hmm. However, the beams in the heart are still brown. So I guess I have to do some more something. It will come.
Yes.
But right now I could not see them bright.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So just keep telling them, get brighter.
Okay.
Get brighter every day and let it grow.
Okay.
Excellent. I look forward to hearing what happens with that. And how about you, Rajendra?
Well, the head and the heart ones were easy to do, and the hara was a little more challenging, but especially I couldn't get the positioning of the descension. I was struggling with that. And then I just went, okay, well, let's try the other ones. And so, yeah, I have this issue with my sacrum kind of gets twisted, and it untwisted, and my hip popped, and everything kind of went into place, which was nice. So
Doing this, it got aligned?
Yeah. So the energy moved, but I wasn't really, I was feeling the energy. I wasn't really seeing the beams. And I had a little trouble with the descension.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. I have that too. I have back issues where I have scoliosis, and this is one of the most beneficial things for my back. It straightens my back more than anything else doing this practice.
good.
So it's really good for alignment. It's really good for physical health. And yeah, this is really interesting because our culture, well, first of all, people who are drawn to spirituality often tend to have more energy up, more of the ascension energy. And this is really important to have this, equalization, this balancing just as strongly in the hara. So if you're one of the people, experiencing this, great. Really, this will be a very, very supportive practice for you. It's something that is very different, even culturally altogether. We're a culture that really supports the head and energy in the head, and secondarily in the heart, and not so much, especially the lower chakras and the lower centers. And it's something that's very different with indigenous people, where this is very open for indigenous people and very strong. And it's part of, being connected to the earth, definitely. So if you're finding that it's challenging in some way, great. That means this is a good practice for you. And use your intention. Keep doing it and just make the intention, get brighter, get stronger, stay aligned, whatever it is that you feel like you need, and give it that direction, give it that instruction. We're bringing our inner masculine here to say, do this. I'm directing you. This is what you are to do. And if you keep with it, it will grow. It will continue, just like the way the beams of light in the head grew and got stronger. This will get stronger too. Any questions about that? Okay. Well, then I think we're just about at the end of what we need to cover for today. Let me go back to my slides. I will send out the notes, probably not till tomorrow, hopefully by tomorrow, definitely by Sunday, but I will try to do it by tomorrow. Where am I? Okay, so our practices. So begin with tuning the beams of light and doing it in all three light centers, head, heart, and abdomen. I definitely recommend doing that every day between now and our next class on August 30th. And then some of the time, if not all the time, depending on what feels right to you, what your guidance is, continue on with the full meditation of connecting with your Merkaba. So that's our daily practice. And then the weekly practice is to tune into your experience of the beams of light at all three centers during the week. And that's a really good thing, just as an ongoing, awareness. How do I experience this during the day, at this time, at that time, and doing little tune-ups during the day as you feel called to do. And just noticing, how does it feel to do that? What do you notice? And then sharing your experiences during your practice buddy meeting with your practice buddy before our next session. And again, of course, I will have all this in the notes. So any question about any of that? I have this image that I love of that we're walking around like lit up Christmas trees. And of course, the Christmas trees, they're bigger at the base than at the top. So that Hara center is really important, or your Christmas tree falls over. So you want to be strong and grounded there. And the other image that I sometimes get with this practice is it's like those clowns that make figures out of balloons, where they have the long balloons and they twist them and they create figures. And I have this image of, you know, each of these centers being one of those balloon structures, and then they're all connected together. And that our beams of light are like those long balloons going out in all the directions. I don't know why that image really is pleasurable to me. My light balloon image. So if either of those connect with you, great, make use of them. Okay, well, let's unmute ourselves and say goodbye for now, and thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Have a good week.
You are so welcome.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Have fun being Christmas trees. Bye.
Bye.